Alright, so welcome back. Now in this part we are finally going to work on the responsive side of our application in order to make it look a bit neater on smaller devices. So heading back to the browser, as you can see at first glance that I added a couple of new books just to make the store a bit more populated, and it does look great. Now the other thing is, it feels great how simple it is to add, remove, update items in our store. We just have to make the change in the sheet itself. Pretty great. The other thing that I realized, that as we are not making use of the author field, we can remove the column itself. We don't really require this. So it would make no difference. As you can see, it should be the same. That's what it is. Because the order in the items sheet, the order of the columns in the item sheet, it doesn't matter, but it does in the orders sheet itself. I know it may sound a bit confusing, but the thing is, we really don't care about the order of the columns in the items sheet. However, in the orders sheet, it does matter, because in respect to the order, we are adding the entries. Anyway, so let's actually get to it right away. I'm gonna pop open the development mode using the device toggle thing right over here. Let's inspect this bad boy. So the very first thing that I can see, and the very first thing that we should fix, is actually the rows that we have over here. So let's get to that, like the book items that we got. So heading back to the editor, over here in the books component, as you can see, we got the grid container, and there we have the book item. So let's actually get to the book item. So I can actually see a couple of values that we are not making use of. Let's remove them. Anyway, so over here we got a grid item wrapping the entire thing with 4 columns on the excess breakpoint. Now, just to be on the safe side, I may have covered it earlier, but again, let me just do the same thing. So the MUI library that we are using, it comes with a bunch of different breakpoints which help us to make the design responsive. So over here, as you can see, we got a bunch of different breakpoints. We got XS, which is extra small, small, medium, large, extra large. So the way it works is that when we target the small breakpoint, it essentially means from 600 pixel to 900 if there is some value, if no value is defined for the medium. Otherwise, the value that you specify, as in like in terms of column that you specify for a breakpoint, the same value will propagate to the point where no value is specified for any other breakpoint. I know it may not be clear, so let me just explain it the other way. So over here we are specifying the value of 4 columns on the excess breakpoint, which means 1/3. Because when we use the grid container, it divides the space into 12 equal columns by default. Now, as of the new version of MUI, the version 5, we do have the option of changing the number of columns that we want to divide the space in. We can do that. However, we won't be doing it. So over here, when we are specifying 4 columns on the excess, the same value will be propagated to all of the above breakpoints in such a way. So that's the thing to keep in mind. Whoops. As you can see. So we don't have to explicitly do this thing, because just by having it, it is implied. So we are going to keep the same column amount, but on the large breakpoint, like on the large devices and all of the above, in this case, large and extra large. And for the excess and all of the above breakpoints till large, we want to specify the value of 12, which would mean the entire available space. So if we do that, as you can see, that's looking a bit better. Now the thing is, I can already see that the layout is breaking, and the reason is pretty much apparent. It's because of the title that we have. So it's actually taking too much space, which is kind of making the left stack and the right stack collide. So let's fix that over here in the right stack where we got the name. So we wrapped it inside of a box. What we can do, instead of setting the maximum width to be of 240 pixels, which is fine for larger devices, we can pass in a responsive value. So let's stick with 240, but on the large devices. And I know this might be like an aha moment for you, knowing that we have the provision of passing responsive values. So 240 for large, fine, but for the XS and all of the above, we can lower it down to be, I guess, to be of 200. Let's take a look, and that's looking perfect actually. That's great. So this completes this part, and I believe we can add a bit more spacing between the book items, for which let's get to the books component. Over here at the moment we are setting, like we have set the spacing to be of 4. Now what we can do, again, this is a new feature, you can say a new thing which came in the version 5 that you can specify spacing on specific axes. So we can specify the spacing for rows, like row spacing, and let's set it to be of, I guess, 7 would work. Let's see, or maybe 8. Let's go with an even number. I think that's looking perfect, even on the large device, so that's great. Otherwise, we do have the option of again kind of specifying that responsive value. However, we won't be needing it. Anyway, now let's head back to the top bar, the top portion of our store. So it is actually the top bar component. Over here, the very first thing that we should fix is the padding. It's way too much around the sides. So for that, we have set the padding of 6 on all the sides except the bottom, for which we have set it to be of 0, so that it's kind of removing the padding for bottom. So what we can do, let's again do the same thing. Let's pass in responsive value. Let's keep it 6, but on large devices and all of the above. However, on the XS and all of the above till large, we can reduce it down to about 2. Let's see. And I would say that's looking good, but we have something going on. Okay. For some reason, padding bottom is not working. It is apparent because this thing is holding precedence over padding bottom. So I guess we have to be a bit more specific on this end. So instead of padding on all the sides, like just P, let's get a bit more precise. Let's go with padding on the x-axis and padding to the top of the same values. And now that we are not really adding any padding to the bottom, we don't have to zero it. So let's see, and that's looking perfect. How about in small devices? Perfect. So that's great. Now we need to work on the font size of this text. Let's see over here. So it is H3. Let's get to the theme first, and over here in the typography, we're going to target the H3 variant, and let's add some value, like a media query value. So we can do something like maximum width, so that it's gonna be devices below 600. So let's go with 600 pixel, and let's change the font size to be, let's go with a relative value of about 2 rem. Let's see. So that is, I think that's still too much. How about 1.5? And I think that's much better. Perfect. So let's also reduce the spacing that we have over here, for which, let's see. So we have set the margin bottom to be of 15, which is way too much. So let's again pass in a responsive value. Let's keep the same for large and all of the above. However, on the XS, let's lower it down to be of 10. Beautiful. So now the thing is, the tabs that we have over here, it's not scrollable. So we do have the option of making them scrollable. Actually, I do know how it, like what it is. So let's do it right away. So on the tabs component, we can pass down the variant and we can set it to be of scrollable. If we do that, now it should be scrollable. The other thing is we can display the buttons to scroll, just to make the user experience a bit better, but feel free to debate on that end. So we can set it to be of show. It is something related to show scroll button. Actually, I forgot the prop, so let me look it up real quick. It's in the tabs component, the tabs API, something related to show. Oh, it's actually allow scroll buttons mobile. That's what it is. So let's pass it down. So that is actually looking good. However, because of the button, it's taking too much space. So how do we fix this thing? Actually, let's remove, but if we remove it, user may skip. Let's do one thing. Let's remove the allow the scroll buttons, and there is actually one other prop that we can make use of, which is the visible scroll bar. Yeah, so this thing itself will make it clear that this boy is scrollable, and I think that's looking much better. Great, so that would be it for the home page. In the bottom, let's add a bit more spacing, for which in the books component, as it is the one below the top bar, we can pass down let's pass down SX margin bottom of about 10. Let's see, and I think that's perfect. So let's take a look at the cart. So let's add a couple of items first. That's actually looking good. Now we need to work on the button which closes the drawer that we have, because on large devices the user does have an option to click outside. However, on small devices that might be a problem for them to actually click over here. So let's make the user experience a bit more ease, and for that let's actually get to the cart panel. Let's see what do we have at the moment. So we only need to have the cross button over here, not on the second panel. But before that, we need the function to close the panel itself, which we do have right over here, handle close panel in the cart panel component. So let's pass it down to both the panels regardless what it is. So we can set it to be of close panel to be of this, and now within the cart component over here, let's import the close icon first from the MUI icons material, and name of the icon is cancel, I guess, cancel outline. And let's also import the icon button component. So now we can do it in this way, that we can have the button somewhere around here along with the cart, the text somewhere around here. And also we can make it visible only on small devices. Mixed large and small, large. Anyway, so let's do that. Over here we got this typography. Let's wrap it in stack along with the icon button of close icon. Let's import that prop right from the top. Oops. Close panel prop, the function. We want to call it whenever the user clicks on. It's actually on click. And let's set the size to be of small, and on the stack let's set the direction to be of row. Align items to be of center, and justify content to be of space between. So let's actually see how it looks at the moment. Obviously it's not aligned. And why is that? Oops. Okay, there it is, margin bottom. Let's shift it to the stack instead, and that's looking perfect. Now in order to make it visible only on small devices, we can pass down an SX to the icon button, and over here we can pass down the display to be a responsive value, for which we can do XS to be of none. However, on all the breakpoints above large and large, we can set it to be of, just to be on the safe side. Let me just check what is the display of it. Inline block. I was thinking the same. Anyway, inline block. It's not actually the SVG, it's this. It's inline flex. Yep. Inline flex. Yep, it's inline flex. Anyway, so now that didn't work. Oh, I kind of did the opposite. So it has to be, did the time opposite. So let's see. And what about on large devices? Beautiful. So that's looking great. We have everything set up. Let's see how this screen looks on small devices. I think that looks fine. It actually looks good. Alright, so this completes the responsive part of the entire thing. Now our store is responsive, and now I think it's the time to actually deploy it, for which we are gonna make use of Vercel. So we will be deploying this application on Vercel. And I just want to check one other thing. What we did in the confirm order, I guess. Where we have, well, actually in the new order, we used that host thing. I do remember this thing. Like, just want to see whether the protocol is included. Anyway, we'll get to know that. I can look it up online, obviously, or maybe just test it in a test environment, but it's more fun to test on production environment. So let's do that in the next part. Let's finally deploy this application to live server. Again, thank you for watching.